Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Isen, picking up where we left off, I just wanted to clarify something. The October 15th, 2018 report, that was written by you, correct?
Correct.
And there were previous reports where Dr. Kovach was more heavily involved, but this October 15th, 2018 report, this was done by you, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you were describing the process of each evaluator, which you and Dr. Kovach are the only two psychologists that are meeting with Mr. Reinking, correct?
Correct.
And you do individual meetings and write an individual progress note. And then you referenced that there was also a team meeting. And I believe you said that there were 4 of those.
That would be my estimate, yes.
And how long do those team meetings last?
I mean, probably around 15 minutes.
Okay. So 15 minutes, there were approximately 4 of those. That would be an hour. Your individual meetings, you said those would be 45 minutes, maybe over an hour, and there were about 8 of those. So just kind of averaging out about 8 hours of those. So this is 9 hours total, correct?
Yeah, that would be a good estimate.
Okay. And during these sessions, you said that you were speaking to Mr. Reinking about what happened to get his input, correct?
Correct.
And you said that you had not reviewed the surveillance video during your first sessions with him, correct?
Correct.
And so your first sessions that you meet with him, July 12th, July 16th, July 18th, July 25th, July 30th, August 6th, you haven't reviewed the surveillance video.
I can't recall what date I reviewed it. I don't know.
Okay. And in your October 15th, 2018 report, you don't specifically describe the surveillance video. Can you describe, I guess, what was your review of that video? Because your report indicates that some of the video files would not play.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what were you able to watch and what were you not able to watch?
I'm not sure what I was not able to watch. I know there was a video that was from inside the Waffle House when the shooting occurred. That was the one that I watched.
Did you watch any of the video outside?
No, I did not.
Okay, so Dr. Isen, you were provided with the surveillance video, which it had multiple cameras inside, multiple cameras outside, correct?
I don't know what the ones I could not watch. I don't know what was on there.
Okay, but you're saying you saw no video cameras outside. That's your testimony.
Correct.
So you would have only watched what happened inside.
Correct.
Dr. Isen, you do realize what the facts of this case are?
Yes.
And you did not watch any of the outside video?
No, I do not believe so.
Okay. I do want to reference the journal entries and the little snafu that occurred, because there were very specific journal entries that you reviewed, and there were specific entries that you did not review. Is that right?
Yes.
And we sent emails to clarify that all up in the last couple of weeks, correct?
Correct.
Which ultimately you reviewed basically everything from 2018. It was the 2017 that was really the issue.
Correct.
And so there was, I think, a time frame from, you reviewed from March 15th to May 17th, 2017. But you didn't review anything after May 17th, 2017. So everything from May 17th, 2017 to the end of 2017, you did not review initially, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. I have 2 emails. The initial email sent that has all of the journal entries from 2017, and then I have your and my email where we confirmed which ones you had.
Okay.
So if I can hand those to you so that you can verify that those are the emails, just so that we can make a record of which journal entries you reviewed prior to Mr. Reinking leaving NTMHI. Do you recognize those emails?
I do.
Your Honor, I would ask that those emails be introduced as an exhibit.
Objection. Let me see the email so I kind of have some idea of what we're talking about.
Dr. Isen, I'm going to ask that you be handed back the 2 emails that we were just discussing. Thank you. Dr. Isen, if you can look at that first email that's dated July 30th of 2018, and if you compare it to the email that we had on January 20th, 2022, could you verify that you received the journal entries, the first one being dated, well, it's labeled, the file name is labeled 1/05/2017, but that's actually the date on that journal entry is 5/1/2017. And you received the 3/16/2017, 3/18, everything up until May 17th, 2017, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And everything after May 17th, 2017. So May 17th, May 20th, May 24th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, June 1st, everything through December 15th, 2017 that's listed in that first email, you did not review until just recently, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. And if I can have the emails marked for identification. Dr. Isen, in completing the evaluation for any person, is it important that you have as much information about what happened as close in time to the crime itself when you are trying to make a determination of someone's mental state, or I guess not really a determination, you're trying to have your opinion about their mental state at the time a crime occurred, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Your whole evaluation is evaluating someone's mental state at the time they committed a crime.
Correct.
It's not a year before, 2 years before, 3 years before. It's supposed to be at the moment that they commit that criminal act.
Correct.
And so in this case with Mr. Reinking, it's at the moment that he shoots and kills and almost kills multiple people. April 22nd, 2018 at 3:23 and 50 seconds a.m. That's the moment.
Correct.
Okay. So you would want to have as much information as you could from people that observed him at that time. Right?
Right.
Now, the state did not provide you with witness statements, correct? You didn't receive any audio recordings of witness statements?
No.
Okay. And that's not something that was specifically requested?
No.
Now, have you been watching the trial testimony this week? Because as an expert witness, you absolutely would be allowed to.
No, I have not.
So you haven't seen any of the living victims testify?
No.
You haven't seen any of the witnesses testify?
No.
And you've never heard a statement from a single person that was there at the time of the shooting?
No, I have not.
And that was not something that you requested?
At the time of the evaluation, our office requested all discovery materials. So that's what we were given. We weren't given any witness statements.
Okay. Well, and that request is kind of a pro forma request. It's a form letter, goes out on every single one. Sometimes you receive significant documents, sometimes you don't. But in a quadruple homicide case, this is less than 3 months after it occurred. Your expectation would not be to receive the full discovery because it's not ready yet.
Correct.
Okay. So that's in that instance, if there were additional things that you needed, you can always make a request to our office, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you don't have any information from anyone that saw Mr. Reinking at the incident, during the incident, even though there were multiple people that were there. And you didn't have any information about anyone that saw him in the 34 hours in which he was evading the police, correct?
Correct.
And you don't have any information about anyone that saw him in the days before. Is that right?
That's right.
So the information that you're provided with, it's historical. It's not close in time to this event, correct?
Yes, some of it is, yes.
And so this particular evaluation, it is based on Mr. Reinking's self-reporting about what happened.
That's part of it, yes.
And you only observed the surveillance video from inside the Waffle House.
Correct.
So we have Mr. Reinking's statement and only the interior video. Which, do you remember that interior video?
Yes.
What do you remember from it?
I remember seeing him enter. I remember seeing flashes as if he was shooting outside before he entered. He entered in the green jacket and appeared to be shooting. Then I saw James Shaw come out from behind the door, and they had they physically fought, and then both ran out.
How much of the video did you watch?
All of it.
Okay, because the video keeps going and you see kind of the aftermath. Did you watch all of it?
Yes.
Okay. So you saw Kayla Shaw run over to where Tia and Akilah were. You saw her slip and fall.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
Okay, and so you saw the first responders that responded.
I don't recall.
You don't remember that part?
I don't recall. I don't recall that part.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the testing that you referenced earlier. So again, you said that you were not lead in this case, correct? But you did write the October 15th, 2018 report, right?
We didn't have a lead.
Okay, so you guys are doing this together, you and Dr. Kovach. And there were a series of tests that you determined should be administered to Mr. Reinking during the evaluation process, correct?
Correct.
And there were 4 of them. What were those 4 tests?
I administered the Miller Forensic Assessment of Symptoms test. I attempted to administer the Structured Inventory of Malingered Symptomatology, the Spectra, and the Mini Mental State Examination, 2nd edition.
Okay, and you said that you administered one of those, is that correct?
Correct.
And that was the Miller Forensic Assessment Test.
Correct.
And could you explain what that test is?
It is a test designed to determine if someone is feigning mental health symptoms.
And so is that feigning the diagnosis, or is that just feigning the reporting to you?
Feigning the reporting to me.
Okay. So you're testing to see if what they're telling you is true, correct?
Yes.
And
Or
it's
if what
a
they're telling me
standardized
is
test.
not true, rather.
Right, whether or not it is or is not true, I guess. But you're testing to see if they're lying to you.
Excuse me? Yes, yes.
Okay. And you also referenced the Structured Inventory of Malingered Symptomology test, correct?
Correct.
And what is that test?
It is the same type of test. It detects feigning of mental health symptoms.
Okay. And so those were 2 separate tests, but you only administered one of them, is that correct?
Correct.
And what was the reason for that?
He refused the other testing.
Okay. And you referenced 2 other tests, the Spectra Test. Can you
Yes.
describe what that is?
It is a test that is designed to determine mental health symptoms, kind of an overall symptom picture that would match a diagnosis.
And the 4th test.
Yes.
Can you what was that test?
Mini mental state examination.
And what does that test for?
It determines if there's any cognitive deficits.
Okay. And were you able to administer either of those tests?
No,
And why was that?
he refused.
Okay. So when you have this protocol that you establish to administer standardized tests to a patient, are those attempted every time you meet with him?
Not every time, no.
And would it be you attempting to administer them, Dr. Kovach, both of you? How does that work?
It would be both of us.
So both of you separately would attempt to administer them until they're administered.
Yes.
And so the first time you meet with them, if they don't take the test, does that indicate that they had refused it?
Yes. Wait, what?
So
I'm
if you,
sorry.
the first time you meet with them, you have 4 tests they're supposed to take. If they take all 4, obviously those tests are done, and that task is complete off your list of things to do. If they refuse to take them, the next time you see them, you would attempt all 4 of those again.
I typically don't try to administer testing the first time I see them, but yeah, if they refuse it one time, I would attempt multiple other times, yes.
And so the refusal, if they're refusing to take one test, do you still ask them about the other 3 tests?
I ask them to take psychological testing, period. I don't tell them what it's called. So if I ask them to, will you answer this list of questions for me that I have right here, and they refuse, then I don't attempt other ones that time. That makes sense. Or if I say, will you answer my, that list of questions, and they don't, then I consider that a refusal. If they do consent to any of them, then I continue to try for the other ones.
Okay, so the one time he consented to one test, you would have asked him to take another one, and because he's only ever taken one test, that means he would have refused.
Yes.
Okay. And those refusals of participating in the process, that would be fairly important for people to know, correct?
Correct.
I mean, this October 15th, 2018 report, this is a report that you are going to submit to the court.
Correct.
And it is submitted to the court and to the Davidson County District Attorney's Office, and it is for the purpose of determining how we assess the prosecution of any criminal offense. Correct?
Objection. The report is not for the state to get to determine how to assess the criminal offense. It's for the court to be informed.
Retard.
Dr. Isen, the report that you're creating, you know that it is going to the court and it will be provided to the district attorney's office, correct? You know that we are reviewing it. The judge is reviewing it. The DA's office is reviewing it.
Yeah, I know that's a possibility, yes.
You know that's a possibility.
Yes.
So when you submit the report, I mean, it has the judge's name and the court on it. It was done pursuant to a court order.
Correct.
So you do know that you're returning it to Judge Fishburne, correct?
It does not get to the judge every time. The judge doesn't read it every time I do a report, but I know that's a possibility, yes.
Okay, so when you're writing it, are you writing it so that it would not go to the court? Do you change the way that you write it for that purpose?
No.
Okay, but I mean, it's important to document everything that's relevant to your assessment, correct?
I believe that it's important, and also everything, typically if someone's getting the report, they have access to the whole chart, so I don't, in my report, I put information that I think is important to the opinions that were formed, but I don't know if it has every single detail of what happened, because that's in the chart.
So you're saying that you don't document things in your final report because you're expecting the parties to review your entire chart?
I don't expect them to review it, but the information is there if they want it. Yes.
Dr. Isen, it's a final report because it is supposed to summarize the assessment, correct?
Yes.
And so anything critical that happened during the assessment, you would want to document that in your final report.
Yes.
Because if it's hidden within thousands of pages of an entire record, it would be hard for someone to know that's a critical piece of information that should be evaluated and assessed, right?
It might be difficult, yes.
It might be difficult. So it sounds like you're not very confident that every critical piece of information is in your final report. Is that correct?
I don't know necessarily what you might consider critical.
Well, refusing to take tests, would that be critical, important piece of information?
Yeah, that's why I included it in the report.
Okay, and so you included all of the refusals in your October 15th, 2018 report.
I didn't include the dates, but I included that he refused it, yes.
Okay, so your report says that you gave the Miller Forensic Assessment of Symptoms test. He refused all other testing. Your report does not indicate that you attempted the testing multiple times and he refused the testing multiple times and then only took the one. That's not listed in your report.
No, it is not.
Okay. So let's talk about your report. You began July 12th, 2018, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You have reviewed your report prior to testifying today, is that right?
Excuse me?
You've reviewed your report prior to testifying today?
Yes.
Okay. And so the first time that you meet with Mr. Reinking is on July 12th of 2018.
Yes.
And he is giving you a report, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Reinking said to you that the employees at the Waffle House by his home, they would say things that were in his journal on his personal computer.
Yes.
And that is one thing that Mr. Reinking has said that has been consistent. Is that right?
Yes.
The issue with the employees at the Waffle House by his house is that they would say things that were on his journal on his personal computer.
Yes, that is what he told me.
He then told you that they, and you put in quotes, that's what he said, broke into his apartment and stole a binder with all of the passwords with the sites I went to.
Yes.
And that is one thing that Mr. Reinking has been consistent about, correct? That is something he has said before.
Correct.
He said that in his handwritten journal that he provided to Dr. Wood. Correct?
I don't recall.
You don't recall that?
No.
Okay. Did you review the handwritten journal that he wrote while he was in custody and provided to Dr. Wood?
No, but I did review her report. I do not believe I reviewed the handwritten journal, but I believe that's why we asked for a copy of the journal.
So you did not review the handwritten journal that was dated May 21st of 2018?
I don't recall. I know I reviewed handwritten. I know I reviewed something that was handwritten. I don't recall the date.
Dr. Isen, you either recall that you reviewed the handwritten journal or you do not. Are you saying you do not remember reviewing a handwritten journal that Travis Reinking wrote on May 21st, 2018?
If you showed it to me, I could tell you. I can't tell you right now. I don't remember.
So you prepared to testify today as an expert witness in a quadruple homicide trial, a quadruple attempted homicide trial, and you have no recollection as to whether or not you reviewed the 5/21/2018 handwritten journal.
I reviewed many journals with many dates. If you could show me it, I would be able to tell you.
Are you talking about the typed journals that you just received and just reviewed the last 3 weeks?
No, I'm referring to Yes, I'm referring to that in the journals I reviewed prior to making my decision. There were many journals with many dates. Yes.
Typed, correct?
There was some handwritten pages.
Okay. But you don't recall a May 21st, 2018, 21-page handwritten journal?
I don't recall the date, no.
Okay. So you would not know if that statement about they broke into his apartment and stole a binder with all the passwords of the sites that I went to, if that was consistent or not. You would not know if he wrote that in a handwritten journal, correct?
I don't recall at this moment, no.
Okay. He did tell you, when describing the harassment, that random things would be taken from his home to cause him inconvenience.
Yes.
That is what he reported to you.
Yes.
He also reported to you that he tried to take punitive action by repossessing a BMW.
Yes.
And he said that to you, punitive action.
Yes.
And Dr. Isen, you would agree that when someone does something and says it's a punishment, that is an indicator that the person understands wrongfulness, correct?
And
Right or wrong, discipline, if you're going to punish someone, they did something wrong, and so you're going to have a negative consequence to that.
yes, the general concept, it does indicate that he understands that.
Okay. So we agree that when you do something to punish, that is an indicator that the person understands wrongfulness. And what was that answer?
Yes.
Yes. Punitive equals wrongfulness, understanding of wrongfulness. Now, in your next session with Mr. Reinking, that would be July 16th of 2018, correct?
Yes.
And that is when you administered the Miller Forensic Assessment of Symptoms test. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that second meeting, you administered the one test, he refused all the others.
Yes.
And in this meeting with him, which is only your second meeting, he is not explaining to you anything about a command from God, a number 3, anything of that nature. He reported to you that he believed that the CIA were using the feds to harass him so that they could bait him into shooting the victims of his current offenses. Correct?
Yes.
This is entirely inconsistent, a new story on your second meeting, correct?
It's new details. I wouldn't say it was entirely inconsistent, but it is new details that he gave me.
Dr. Isen, the lack of a command from God, that would be inconsistent. If Mr. Reinking is saying he received a command from God, that is why he did this, there is no mention of a command from God at all from July 16, 2018.
No, he didn't repeat that day, no.
Okay, so it's inconsistent. He did not repeat it. He gave you a different story. Correct?
I would describe it more of a continuation of the story. I don't know if I would say it was a different story, but
Dr.
he did
Isen, the
not say the same
CIA
detail.
baiting him versus a command from God, that's a continuation of the same story?
He could believe both things to be true, yes.
You're saying that he does not wholeheartedly believe a command from God because he also partially believes the CIA are baiting him.
No, he could believe that the CIA is baiting him, and he got a command from God.
Dr. Isen, he said that the CIA were using the feds to harass him so they could bait him into shooting the victims of his current offenses. That means Mr. Reinking would choose that, but he thinks that they would be tricking him into it. Correct?
Objection, not a question.
She threw correct at the end. Overruled.
I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
Dr. Isen, his statement to you was the CIA were using the feds to bait him into shooting these victims: Joe Perez Jr., Taurean Sanderlin, DeEbony Groves, Akilah Dasilva. The CIA were using the feds to bait him. That means Mr. Reinking chose to kill them, and he's just saying they tricked him into it. Correct?
He's saying that they baited him. I don't know if he said that that's why he did it, exclusive of the command from God.
But he does not mention a command from God to you at all in that July 16th, 2018 meeting.
No, we did not.
Which, in that meeting, when he told you this new story that did not include a command from God, he actually said to you, "You seem upset." And you asked him why you would be upset, and he responded, "Because you believe me."
Yes.
So he told you a brand new story that did not include a command from God, and that seemed to upset you.
That was his perception that I was upset, yes.
Okay. And this did not come up on direct for whatever reason, but during your meetings with Mr. Reinking, he actually kind of developed some type of fondness with you. Is that right?
Yes.
And you've kind of, your interactions with him, he was always calm with you. Is that right?
Yes.
Quiet?
Yes.
Very soft-spoken with you?
He talked a lot, but he did not get loud. No.
Very soft-spoken.
Yes.
Very calm.
I wouldn't, not calm all the time, but he didn't get like aggressive with me, no.
Okay. I think when we met, you described him as just nice, like anybody else, ready to be released into society.
Yeah, he was nice and polite, yes.
Okay. But then again, he developed this kind of specific fondness for you, correct?
He believed that his wife was inhabiting my body, yes.
Okay.
I don't know if it was for me, but yeah.
So he compared you to someone that he referred to as his wife.
He didn't compare me. He thought his wife was in my body, yes.
So
and he called me Crystal.
Crystal.
Yes.
And then later he called you Celine.
Yes, his other wife, yes.
Because he had two wives, which Mr. Reinking kind of has some delusions of grandeur, that he's very important, correct?
Correct.
And so he thought Taylor Swift was stalking him and obsessed with him, which you acknowledge that is not an uncommon thought. There's more people than one would think that actually think that, right?
Yes, particularly in Nashville. That's correct.
But that he specifically thought that he had two wives and then kind of attached that to you.
Yes.
And in this particular meeting at the end, he actually told you, "I think you're beautiful."
Yes.
And this was something that kind of continued throughout your meetings. Is that right?
It stopped at some point, but it was across multiple meetings, yes.
Okay. And especially those initial meetings.
Correct.
Now, you did not reference any of that portion where he was comparing you to his wife and saying that you're beautiful. You didn't reference that in your report for that date, but you did mention it later.
Yeah, are you saying the final report or the progress note?
The October 15th, 2018 report in which you are referencing your July 16th, 2018 second session with him. You didn't reference anything about him saying that you're beautiful or referring to you as his wife.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Dr. Isen, you did not put in your report that he told you that you were beautiful.
I believe I did.
Do you need a copy of your October 15th, 2018 report? Do you have one with you?
I'm sorry, the October 15th report. I have one with me. I believe I referenced it in an earlier report, but I might not have done it in the October one.
Okay. Moving on to your July 18th, 2018 report. You spoke to him about the incident, correct?
Correct.
And again, you said that you had not reviewed the surveillance video at that point, correct?
Correct.
And even then, you never reviewed the surveillance video from outside. Which, going through your reports, kind of starts out with him telling you, I woke up at 2 o'clock that morning.
Yes.
And he said, I realized I had to do something about the situation.
Correct.
I started thinking it through, and I knew something had to be done at that point.
Yes.
So Mr. Reinking wakes up. Mr. Reinking realizes he has to do something, and he makes a decision. Correct?
He realized he had to do something, and he said he asked for guidance from God. Yes.
Well, your report says that he explained, I get information in my mind.
Yes.
So he wakes up, he decides he has to do something, he makes a decision, and then he says, I get information in my mind. It's almost like getting information from when someone tells you something, but you don't hear it in your ears.
Correct.
It's not a voice.
Correct.
And that probably did not seem unusual to you.
Yes, it seemed unusual.
Well, I mean, did it seem inconsistent with his previous reporting? I would assume that it did not.
Which previous reporting?
Well, Dr. Isen, he's written a handwritten journal while he's in jail.
Yes.
He's previously reported to another mental health provider, but the information that you have that's coming directly from him would have been your conversations with him, and if you reviewed that handwritten journal.
Yes.
So if that statement was completely inconsistent with something he said before, you would have documented that in this report, correct?
I know it was different than what he reported to the outpatient evaluator, yes.
And what was that?
That he heard Morgan Freeman's voice.
Okay, so you do know about the Morgan Freeman's voice.
Correct.
So that did seem unusual to you. That was inconsistent.
Yes, I believe that's why I questioned him about it.
So you know that his reporting of any message from God has been inconsistent. And what he's telling you right now is inconsistent, correct?
Yes.
And he actually told you that he had received messages from God prior to April 22nd, 2018.
Correct.
So he told you that he had received messages before in this July 18th, 2018 date.
Correct.
He goes on to tell you about what God told him. So he said that it's just he gets this message in his head, and he goes on to tell you what God told him to do.
Yes.
And he said that God told him that he was supposed to, you get your gun and go to the Waffle House tonight. He said you only have to shoot 3 people.
Correct.
And Mr. Reinking's response was, I don't know.
Yes.
This seems like a direct order.
Correct.
So that is not someone who is understanding a command from God, correct?
He was unsure, yes.
He's questioning. He's unsure. So he's weighing, is this right or wrong, correct?
Correct.
When asked how he received the message, because again, you know that he has previously reported it was a voice because it was Morgan Freeman's voice. So it has to be somewhat audible to identify it to Morgan Freeman. And he told you, it just came to my mind.
Yes.
He does not report that it is Morgan Freeman.
Correct.
He said, wear your jacket only.
Yes.
Mr. Reinking said, I'm guessing because of the way they were treating me. He expressed to you that he did not know why he would be doing this, that he was guessing.
Yeah, he did not know why he would wear just the jacket, yes.
So you're saying he was only guessing about just wearing the jacket, not what he was about to do?
Yes, he reported he did not know why God instructed him to wear just the jacket.
And he thinks it's because of the way they had been treating him that God would tell him that.
Yes.
Okay. And then God goes on apparently to say, he said, take 2 magazines with you.
Correct.
And he says, I put on my jacket, then I took my pants off, got my gun, and headed outside.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I think that's the first time that he has mentioned that he actually purposely undressed, correct?
Correct.
Now, Dr. Isen, this command from God, it did not tell Mr. Reinking which firearm to take, correct? It just said take a gun.
Yes.
And you know that Mr. Reinking has multiple guns, correct?
Correct.
And so there was nothing specific about that.
No. He
And
did
so-
not tell me anything about that, no.
And so Mr. Reinking would have chosen that weapon. That was his choice.
From the information I have, yes.
Yes. Then the next thing he says, which again, you included this in your report, he says, this is really weird because I feel like I'm giving a deposition to my wife.
Yes.
Because again, he has this fondness for you. And you reminded him that you were a psychologist and not his wife. And then he says that he sat in his truck for a little bit because I was like, I'm a little scared. Because it seemed like the right thing to do, but it was still nerve-wracking. So I asked God to show me a sign if this was the right thing to do. Which again, Dr. Isen, you would agree that Mr. Reinking is weighing his decision.
Yes.
He is making a decision and he is weighing, is this right, is this wrong?
Yes.
And he even says this is still nerve-wracking, so I asked God to show me a sign that this was the right thing to do, because again, you've said he's very unsure. Maybe 10 minutes went by. A car pulled up with the hazard light flashing and he pops the trunk. He was looking for something. I could see it in my rear view mirror. He ends up getting a hat out of his car. And then he was walking by my trunk and I saw the number 3 on his hat and I was like, what are the chances of that? So he said, what are the chances?
Yes.
Like it was happenstance.
Yes.
Okay. And then you questioned him about the significance of the hat because he's saying that it held some significance somehow because he's unsure of why he's there and whether or not he should do this. And he responded and said it was just like a Chance the Rapper kind of thing.
Yes.
Now, are you familiar with Chance the Rapper?
I am.
And Chance the Rapper has a very specific fashion statement where he has a hat that has a large number 3 on the front of his hat that he regularly wears.
Yes,
Is that right?
that is right.
Now, this is very inconsistent, as this is the first time that Chance the Rapper has come up in this, correct?
It's the first time it came up, yes.
And so when he is explaining this to you, and again, this is your 3rd meeting, the 2nd meeting, no command from God whatsoever, and the 3rd meeting, he again has added something new that no one has ever heard before, and he has changed something that's pretty significant, correct?
He added something new, yes.
The meaning of the number 3 might be a fashion statement related to Chance the Rapper.
Yes.
Okay. He goes on to say he likes the number 3. It's a beautiful number. There's 3 of us. And he explained he was referring to me, Celine, and Crystal, or me, Celine, and you.
Correct.
Referring to you.
Correct.
So that would be me, Celine, like Celine, Crystal, and you. He's adding you to his group, correct?
No, it was him, Celine, and Crystal, who was me.
Okay.
Yes.
No God involved, correct?
Excuse me?
I said God's not one of the people involved, correct?
No, not in what he was saying then, no.
Okay. So you again correct him as to who he is, and he goes on and he does make a reference to that 3 also is significance because of the Holy Trinity, and Nikola Tesla liked the number 3, and he talks about the starburst. He goes on to say, I already knew these people up here, and you put in parentheses at the Waffle House, that's what he was referring to. Every time I came here, they're repeating everything I say in my private journal. They hacked in, they would cross-communicate and act just like they were talking about work.
Yes.
And that is something that's consistent, that the employees at the Waffle House said things from his journal.
Correct.
He said he also went to another Waffle House in the South where I'm pretty sure they put manure in my food.
Yes.
Not the Waffle House by his house. He's talking about another Waffle House.
Correct.
Now, did he specify if he's talking about the one in Caryville, Tennessee, or did you even ask?
I don't recall.
Okay. But it's definitely not the one that he's going to.
Correct.
So then he tells you, so I got out of my truck and I did what I was there to do. And he has told you that his message that he was very unsure about was to kill 3 people.
Correct.
And he's going to the Waffle House because the Waffle House employees have been repeating things from his journal, and he is supposed to kill 3.
Yes.
He then reported that he shot at the man with the number 3 hat. I think I missed it first, and then I had to fire again the second time. That one hit him, and he fell to the ground. Then I remember just feeling like I was going to throw up because I was like, this is something that God told me to do, but it seems evil. It seems foreboding. That was what he reported to you.
Yes.
Dr. Isen, you would agree that the fact that he felt nauseous by his own actions indicates he understood the wrongfulness of them, correct?
No.
Feeling nauseous over what you've just done because it seems evil? You're saying that is not an indicator of wrongfulness.
It's an indicator, yeah, that he Yes, it's an indicator that he did not like what he was doing, yes.
He did not like what he was doing.
Yeah.
He knew it was wrong. He said he was evil. What he is doing is evil. He understands that what he's doing is wrong, correct?
No, he believed that it wasn't wrong because of the command from God.
Dr. Isen, these are Mr. Reinking's words that
Yes.
he said he remembered a feeling of he was going to throw up because despite, he says, because I was like, this is something God told me to do, but it seems evil. It seems foreboding. That is Mr. Reinking expressing his own feelings. He knows it's evil. He is expressing his understanding of wrongfulness. Correct? Dr. Isen,
Judge,
Give her a chance to answer. I think she was trying to formulate or absorb the entire question.
I believe it's similar to if someone in combat gets an order to kill people. They might not want to kill or like to kill. They might throw up. They might be disgusted by that. But because of the order and the mission, they might not believe what they're doing is wrong.
Dr. Isen, what you just described was someone who believes what they're doing is wrong, but they do it anyway because they're ordered to do it. So they don't like it, they don't want to do it, they feel compelled to do it, they do it anyway, but they understand that it's wrong, that's why they're throwing up.
And no, I'm describing someone that's conflicted.
Let me ask you a different question. The concept of understanding evil, that indicates that you are able to understand wrongfulness, correct?
Yes, the general concept of evil, yes.
You are weighing good and evil, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Reinking's statement to you was that he believed what he was doing was evil, correct?
He said it seemed evil, I believe, yes.
It seemed to him to be evil.
Correct.
It seemed foreboding.
That's what he said.
And you haven't seen that video that shows him shooting Joe Perez.
No, I have not.
You did not watch the video that shows Mr. Reinking shooting him. You don't know how many times he shot him, correct?
Correct.
So you don't know anything about what Mr. Reinking is describing to you about this mass murder. You don't know if that statement to you is correct or not, do you? Would it concern you?
Judge, again, she's starting to answer, she's asking
Let her
a
answer.
completely different question.
I'm sorry, I forgot what the question I was trying to answer was.
Dr. Isen, you don't know if Mr. Reinking is even telling you the truth right here, correct?
Okay. He did not. No, I don't know how many times he shot him. No.
Okay.
I believe I had the affidavits describing the incidents, yeah.
Did you indicate in your report anywhere Joe Perez Jr. and what happened to him?
I had a summary of all the affidavits in my report.
Okay, but your October 15th, 2018 report doesn't mention Joe Perez Jr.
No, I don't. I never mention victims by names in my reports.
Okay. It doesn't mention that he was shot 4 times.
No.
Okay. Now, you know that Joe Perez Jr. was not a Waffle House employee, correct?
Correct.
So you know that Travis Reinking went to the Waffle House allegedly with a message from God that he was unsure of, and that message was to kill 3, actually, the message was to shoot 3 employees of the Waffle House.
Objection, wasn't approved.
Overruled.
I believe he said to shoot 3 people. I don't think he said employees.
Well, Dr. Isen, we just went through it, that the whole reason he's going up there is because the Waffle House employees are saying things from his personal journal. Those
Yes.
are the employees.
Yes, he said that, and then also prior to the shooting, he reported that the customers and the employees were all involved, as well as everyone in the community.
Okay, but prior to the shooting,
Yes.
you didn't speak to him prior to the shooting.
No.
Okay, so where are you getting this information about Waffle House, the people? Where are you getting this additional information?
From his journal entries.
The typed journal entries,
Yes.
the ones that you just reviewed in the last 3 weeks.
Correct.
So that has nothing to do with the opinion that you are here to testify about. Because you did not have that information when you issued this opinion. You did not have that information when Mr. Reinking was telling you about this.
Judge, may we approach?
Come on. The objection.
Dr. Isen, again, I am trying to focus you just on the July 18th, 2018 session with Mr. Reinking, where Mr. Reinking is providing you information about this actual shooting.
Okay.
So on that date, he reported that he was going to the Waffle House because, and the message is, you are to get your gun, go to the Waffle House tonight, and he said you only have to shoot 3 people.
Yes.
And Mr. Reinking has said during this session that the people are the employees. The people up here at the Waffle House, they're repeating everything I say in my private journal. They hacked in, they would cross-communicate and act like they were just talking about work. That is the employees.
Yes, that's what he described during that session. Yes.
Mr. Reinking goes to the Waffle House and he shoots someone who doesn't work there first.
Correct.
So his very first act that he chooses is in complete contradiction to this alleged message from God, correct?
I don't think it's a contradiction because the message said 3 people. The message didn't say employees. But
He explained to you that he knew these people up here at the Waffle House. He doesn't ever tell you anything about God telling him to shoot customers,
correct.
correct?
Yes.
In a previous writing, he references he was hoping there would be no customers. He's going there to shoot the employees. That was his alleged command, correct?
No, the command said 3 people.
3 people.
Yes.
But you just said that you understood it was 3 employees.
No, I did not say that. I said the command didn't mention customers. It also didn't mention employees. He had mentioned employees previously, but the command was not specific.
Okay,
From
so
what he
you're now
reported to me.
saying that the command is non-specific. He's just supposed to shoot 3 people.
Yeah, the command said 3 people.
Would you agree?
That's what he reported to me.
That the 3 people, it's just 3?
That's what he said, yes.
Okay. But again, Dr. Isen, Mr. Reinking is saying that he's doing this because he's being hacked and harassed,
Correct.
correct? And the harassment that's consistent is that people are causing him inconveniences and they're repeating things out of his journal, correct?
Correct.
So he is going there for the purpose of punishing people that are causing him inconveniences and repeating things out of his journal.
He never told me he was punishing them.
He never told you he was punishing them.
Correct.
Okay. So you didn't consider what he wrote in his handwritten journal at all then?
I don't recall.
You don't recall the handwritten journal?
I don't recall the details of it, no.
You don't recall that Mr. Reinking said that he was going to punish them and take something that they couldn't take back, their lives? You don't remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
Okay, you do remember that.
Yes.
So you remember that he said he was going to punish them by taking something they couldn't take back, their lives.
Yes.
And that is something that Mr. Reinking said, and he said that before any reference to any message from God. That was his statement, his choice, correct?
That was his statement, yes.
So he is going up there to take lives. He has alleged that there are 3. After he kills Joe Perez Jr., which you don't see him take that 5th shot at Joe Perez Jr., as he's clearly already deceased on the ground, because again, you didn't watch the video. He says there are 2 guys outside, and the guy outside yelled something. Now this is on page 5 of 10 of your report. Can you say what Mr. Reinking said at that point?
Oh shit, that nigger's dead.
He then says, I step up to the sidewalk just to be linear with the guys that were running. I didn't want to shoot him in the head because it seemed too fast. I thought that maybe give him a chance to make things right with God. Dr. Isen, you know that Mr. Reinking is describing to you when he killed Taurean Sanderlin, correct?
Correct.
But you didn't see the video of Taurean Sanderlin running for his life, did you?
No.
You will agree that someone who wants to give someone a chance to get right with God before they shoot them in the head, that person understands the nature of their conduct, correct?
Yes.
They understand they are firing a weapon, it is shooting bullets, that person is going to die.
Correct.
And Mr. Reinking's understanding of I am purposely not going to shoot this man in the head immediately, I'm going to wait to do that one so that he might be able to ask God for salvation. that is definitely showing an understanding of the nature of his conduct, correct?
Correct.
It is also an understanding of the wrongfulness of his conduct, correct?
I don't believe so.
You don't believe that someone giving someone the chance to ask for salvation from their God is an understanding of what they are doing is right or wrong?
No.
You do not think that that is an indicator of understanding right from wrong, that you would give someone the chance to pray for salvation?
I think that that's an understanding of religious views of right from wrong in that instance, yes.
So you do agree that giving someone the chance to get right with God before they are murdered is an indicator the person understands wrongfulness, correct?
Yeah, the general concept, yes, that's correct.
Mr. Reinking's next statement is, then I went inside and there were 2 more in there. I figured they were the personnel who ran the place. And these people were the people who kept saying those things. Now, Dr. Isen, Mr. Reinking's statements to you are that he's targeting the employees. Do you agree that that statement indicates that's what he was intending to do?
Yes.
He clarified that they were the individuals who were repeating things from his journal. Correct?
Correct.
Now, you saw the video from the inside of the Waffle House.
Yes.
You saw Mr. Reinking when he entered. He did not go left, did he?
I can't recall what direction he went in.
You've seen the video of him gunning down all of those people and you don't remember it?
I remember the video. That detail I do not remember, no.
Well, Dr. Isen, if you go in this Waffle House, if you walk left, that's how you would get to the kitchen. That's how you would get to where the employees were. If you go right, that's where the bathrooms are. That's customer area only. Mr. Reinking shoots to the left. He doesn't walk that way. And you clearly see Akilah Dasilva. You clearly see Shanita Waggoner scrambling on the ground trying to get away from him as he's shooting at them. There is no question they are not Waffle House employees. Everybody in that place had hit the deck, but they are scrambling away from him. And you saw him shooting at them, right?
Yes.
And then he turns right and he shoots at Sharita Henderson and DeEbony Groves, 2 girls that are under a booth. They're not Waffle House employees. Now, Dr. Isen, I realize that you haven't listened to anyone's statement and you haven't watched any of the testimony in this trial, but Sharita Henderson said that he looked her in the eye before he shot her.
Objection. Still testifying, no question.
Sustained unless it's going to be followed up with a question.
Dr. Isen, you agree that Mr. Reinking went in there to shoot more than just 3 people, correct?
He for a fact shot more than 3 people, yes.
So you've seen that he goes in and he shoots way more than 3 people.
Yes.
His actions are not about any alleged command from God. Even if that were true, he is now making decisions on his own. He is doing what he wants to do, correct?
Yes, that was different than the command that he said he heard. Yes.
That is different than the command. And you saw that he did not stop. He shoots into the bathroom area. You saw James Shaw Jr. come flying out of there. I mean, almost parallel. And you know that he was struck in the arm with a bullet. Mr. Reinking's actions in that Waffle House, you agree, were to keep going and to shoot more people. Correct, Dr. Isen?
Yes, he did shoot more people.
And he had 60 more rounds. It was only James Shaw Jr. that stopped him that day, not Mr. Reinking. You agree with that, right?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw is the one that took the gun from him. He was headed to do more, correct?
I can't predict what he was going to do, but I do know that James Shaw Jr. stopped him, yes.
Mr. Reinking goes on to tell you about his interaction with Mr. Shaw. And he says that he ran out, he kept running. I took off running toward my apartment. I threw my jacket in the ditch because I didn't need it anymore. It was torn anyway. So I ended up running down the street. Correct?
Correct.
And the jacket was just there to hold his extra magazines, which now he doesn't have a gun. So he told you he didn't need that jacket anymore, correct?
Yes, that's what he told me.
It also just so happens to be the only identifiable piece of clothing he had on at the moment, correct?
Correct.
And then the next thing he tells you is that, again, we're back to God's alleged direction, that God told him to drive his truck to the Waffle House, leave it there, and walk back to his apartment. Did that strike you as odd, Dr. Isen?
Yes.
Because I guess one would expect that Mr. Reinking might get back in his truck and leave the scene, correct?
Yes.
And obviously, what he's already described, this is not the original plan, because James Shaw Jr. was not in the plan. Correct?
Correct.
So the thing that makes him run on foot, again, he told you that God told him to do it that way, but you agree that's inconsistent, right?
No.
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 Now, he doesn't tell you originally when he gets the message that he is supposed to go to the Waffle House tonight, you only have to shoot 3 people. He doesn't tell you then that he's supposed to drive his truck, leave it there, and walk back to his apartment. He only tells you after he's describing the event and what happened, and then he says that was somehow connected to a message from God.
Correct.
Okay. And then he says that he ran to his apartment and he took a shower.
Yes.
Now, you would agree that Mr. Reinking, he disguised his appearance by not wearing any clothes, correct?
His appearance was different.
I mean, there's no description that's going to go out on a bolo. There's no hoodie, jeans, hat, colored clothes. We're not getting any of that stuff. The only description is naked man.
Yes.
Okay. So he took an effort to conceal what would be detected about him. Correct?
I don't know.
If someone tries to disguise themselves, that would indicate that they understand that what they're about to do is wrong. You would agree with that?
Yes, that would be an indicator.
So I put a mask on to go rob a bank. the fact that I put the mask on would indicate I knew that what I was about to do could get me caught, and I understood it was wrong.
Yes.
Okay. So he then reports to you that he heard sirens. And I was like, great. They never did anything when I called them before. That's when I put on some shoes, and I thought, I gotta get out of here now, because now they're gonna come and try to convict me after it escalated to this. Mr. Reinking is expressing, I thought I gotta get out of here now because they're gonna come and try to convict me. Dr. Isen, you would agree that that statement indicates that Mr. Reinking understood the wrongfulness of his actions, correct?
Yes, he understood the police would be after him after the fact, yes.
He absolutely understood the police would be after him for what he did.
Correct.
And then he goes on and says that he had a plan to go to Canada. And then says to you, that's what I should have done in the first place. So again, Dr. Isen, he is planning to flee the United States of America to go to another country. You would indicate that you would agree that that indicates he understands the wrongfulness of what he's just done.
Yes.
He has to flee the jurisdiction because the police are after him for what he just did.
Correct.
And then he's saying that's what I should have done in the first place. He is expressing that he understands he did not have to do this. He had options. Correct?
He did say that that was an option, and he also said that they would continue to do the same thing in Canada if he went there. Yes.
That's what he says at that moment. He said, but it said online they would follow me there. That's what he says at that very moment. He said he left his apartment with a backpack full of stuff, including a handgun, a flashlight, and a bottle of water. He said he also put some silver in the backpack, saying, I had some silver in my house, some valuable metal. He then goes on to describe to you, I probably only got a mile from my house. I swam through this lake. I put mud on me and everything to try to avoid the smell for dogs. He said he crawled under a house and hid for about 3 days. Dr. Isen, you would agree that someone that packs a go bag that includes a gun, that they understand they are going on the run from the police, correct?
Correct.
And his efforts that he's saying he swam through a lake, trying to put mud on him to avoid a canine dog from finding him, like a canine track. That he's indicating he understands the police are coming to arrest him for what he did.
Yes.
So he said he hid under the house for about 3 days. He describes it as being cold, like about 40 degrees. Then he reported he left that hiding spot after he heard the residents of the house talking, and one of them said, I think there's a dog down there in the crawl space. I think I should go check that out, maybe tomorrow. Mr. Reinking stated, so I thought it would be a good idea to leave there. Which again, Mr. Reinking is expressing his understanding that the police are after him for what he did, correct?
Yes.
He goes on and he says to you that he had a plan to go to a business where he previously worked and he was going to hotwire one of their trucks. You would agree that someone that is going to hotwire a truck is planning to steal it, correct?
Correct.
And he used that term hotwire, which indicates he understood he was going to steal it. Correct?
Correct.
And he says so he could drive to Canada. He stated he was 3 to 4 miles away from the business when I just ran into one officer in the woods, and that's how I got caught. He understood he was caught. That is an indicator that he understands they are after him for what he did at the Waffle House, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, in between your 7/18 meeting with Mr. Reinking and your next meeting with Mr. Reinking on July 25th of 2018, he met with Dr. Kovach on July 23rd, 2018. Now, that was a separate meeting apart from you. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you were not present for that July 23rd, 28 meeting with Dr. Kovach. Is that, I do want to clarify that if you could. And please,
You said July 23rd?
yes, July 23rd. If you could just verify whether or not that was a individual session with just Dr. Kovach, or if that was a session that you would have been involved in.
I believe that was just Dr. Kovach.
Are you able to confirm that, Dr. Isen?
Yeah, I have a note, a progress note from the same date. But from the way it's written, it appears that I met with him individually by myself.
Okay, and so you have an individual note on July 23rd, which I believe he refused the Spectra test again that day. But Dr. Kovach's meeting, again, totally separate meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, I am moving on to the July 25th meeting. It is approximately the same
Getting
length.
close. And I suspect that you would go well over 12 o'clock noon on questioning about July 25th, if I'm not looking at the narrative as being an indication of.
Yes, I have 3 more.
All right, we'll go ahead and recess for lunch, let them get settled in for a little bit. We will recess for lunch at this time, and we'll get back in here about an hour or so. Please keep in mind, you cannot discuss anything about what has transpired in this courtroom. Keep your dogs to yourself. Back in here. At the point in time, you can step down back there. You get back that 10 to 1, so. Whenever the testimony of Dr. Isen concludes, she has referenced other materials that she has reviewed. But she's also at length been questioned on his direct statements, which are substantive evidence. I assume I should give both a curative instruction as to how she treats those other materials that are outside sources, along with how she treats his statements to her, which are to be treated differently. Okay? Sort of like we discussed late yesterday afternoon. So if someone will just please remind me to do that, I mean, I hope I will remember to give the curative instruction and differentiate it between that and his personal statements. But if I don't, somebody please do before we call the next witness. All right? Court's in recess.